My name's Ebrahim Hussain. Everyone calls me Ibi. It's short, single syllable, it's great. And I've got a few roles. So my primary full-time job is Chief Scientist with Aquawatch Solutions, which is an environmental tech company that's born and bred in New Zealand, which is pretty awesome. I also run my own consultancy called Submerged Environmental, and we specialise in subsurface aquatic monitoring. And then myself and my wife also founded a charity called Aotearoa Lakes, which is an NGO that supports community groups and iwi groups with environmental consulting services for free. We're at Lake Pupuki, and I have a long history with this lake. I've done extensive amounts of monitoring, so some of that monitoring has included water quality sampling, so where you take an actual sample and you send it to the lab. We've installed continuous water quality monitoring equipment that measures the health of the water 24 hours a day. We've dived in this lake extensively looking for fish species, plant species. We've assessed the lake bed and the general ecology and the lake health. And this is quite a big lake, so we were lucky enough that we could use underwater scooters to cover big sections of the lake. We used a whole lot of innovative survey techniques, so a lot of us are cave divers, so we were putting out lines in pretty bad visibility and doing all sorts of cool underwater work. We get surprised all the time. So this lake in particular, one of the things that surprised me the most is there aren't any real records of freshwater mussels being present in this lake. When you Google it, it doesn't really show up. And we were diving for some ecological surveys here, and I saw some shells on the bottom of the lake bed and dusted it off, and all of a sudden we uncovered this massive historic mussel bed. And the species is Aotearoa Lakes, which is a very rare species in New Zealand and occurs nowhere else in the world. And we mapped out a bed that was almost 200 meters by 50 meters of dead mussels. So this was something that we had these amazing species here and we didn't even know we had lost them. And it's very rare that you would lose a species from an environment without anyone even knowing. So that was quite a surprise. This lake is what we call eutrophic, which means it's got a high nutrient load. So generally the water clarity will be poor. So it's normally a bit dark and murky down there. There's quite a lot of silt and sediment on the bottom, so it gets a little nasty, but we still see quite a lot of fish and plants. Unfortunately, it's a lot of invasive species, and these species are having catastrophic effects on water bodies in New Zealand. And this lake is a good example of how if we introduce those species to our waters, they overrun and take over. And you can see we've got almost no native species left under the water here. I was obsessed with the underwater world since I was a kid. Since I was 5, my goal was to dive and understand the underwater environment. And when I got a little bit older, so when I was about 10, being an environmental scientist is what I wanted to do. And I was solely focused on this. So the subjects I chose at school, what I studied at university, my career choices. Through the years, I've tried to get as much experience as I could in the environmental space or around any space that affects water. So I've been a marine water quality specialist, been a marine ecologist, a hydrologist, a freshwater ecologist, a water quality scientist, a limnologist. So I've kind of been through a few. As chief scientist, my job impacts people in the environment in a positive way because I have oversight over the 3 fundamental components of environmental science and natural resource management. So that includes monitoring, it includes data analysis and interpretation, and then how that data goes into policy and creates more effective resource management, but also more effective behavior change recommendations that all of us can implement. At university, the career options we were presented were quite limited, and I wish I had known how broad environmental science can actually be and how you can find a job that fits your personality and your interests. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So if you love fieldwork, you can become a field ecologist. If you love data analysis, you can become a data analyst. If you like policy and conservation management, you can go into that. So I think there's tons and tons of opportunities. Go out, try everything and make it your own.